Hello and welcome to Talking Church. Hope you are all doing well. My name's Sean. This is Pastor Stu, the legend that is. How you doing?
Thank you. Hello, Sean. Nice to see you.
You doing good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I've got the phone on me today, so I can look at Facebook and see who's joining us online today. So shall I just read a couple of names out so far?
Here.
So far, we have Pastor Andy.
Woo! Hey, Pastor Andy.
Best behaviour today.
That's it.
We have Liz, Liz Ben-Hura. We've got your mum, Sarah. She's watching today.
Come on.
June,
hello, Mum.
June from the United States is with us today.
Hey, June.
And others are joining as I'm speaking.
Brilliant.
So we'll go back to that in a few minutes.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we may throw some questions out in a minute. Feel free to put your answers in there in a bit as we do. But before we do, I just maybe talk, before we introduce what we're talking about, maybe a highlight of the week for you, Stu. That's what I'm thinking of doing.
Do you know, it's been a really busy week, as you know,
manic,
because your week's been pretty busy. We had a couple of days together, didn't we, at the AOG training.
Which was fantastic.
Great morning Sunday. I was over in our Waterside congregation speaking. They had a family lunch afterwards.
Oh, you got
which
in
I didn't know I was even going to get, but, you know, I
did
got
it for you, did
food.
they?
I don't think they did, no. But I was there. My highlight of the week was Friday morning. I went to look at a car with my son, Corbin.
Nice.
A new one. And my highlight was seeing his excitement when he was able to buy that car.
Come on, that's great.
And, so this is his second car now that he has owned since he passed his test.
Brilliant.
Just over 6 months ago.
Fantastic.
And, it's kind of... I'm a little bit jealous as well because it's one of those cars that I wish I would have had.
You want the car, don't you?
Yeah, I do actually.
That's cool.
So,
honesty, best policy.
It's good.
It's brilliant. Cool. Fantastic. For me, I think my highlight has been kind of the thing where we went to, the MIT thing, the AOG thing. Busy, but just so good, wasn't it?
It was brilliant.
And like the whole teaching thing kind of... which is kind of stemmed kind of what we're talking about today, really, about the theme. But we've kind of come away from that with a lot of kind of information, isn't it? And we already had this thought on our hearts, which what we're going to be talking about today is that thought of authentic relationships, which I think is really good to talk about.
And it's come up a lot lately, even when Paul McCulloch was with us a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, true.
A lot of conversation around what is an authentic relationship.
Yeah. So. And I think it's important because I think... as we talk about this in a minute, the world is full of relationship, but we're meant to have an authentic relationship, and I think that's really important. So obviously the word authentic, kind of most of us will be very aware of that. It literally means genuine, real, honest, sincere.
You're just describing yourself there, Sean.
Yeah, it's me.
You are.
And then now I'll describe the word authentic. No, I'm joking. It's true, but that's what authentic is, isn't it? We're familiar with authentic. When you buy something that's like a collectible, it wants to be authentic. A painting, is it authentic? Is it genuine? Is it like real?
Yeah.
And for me, I suppose, looking at myself, if I was to kind of examine myself, I really love like meaningful connection with people. I'm one of those people that kind of just really likes to go one-to-one with someone and just kind of really like get to know them. Not too intense. I've had to calm myself down because I can be quite an intense person, but I just really like to get to know who they are. So for me, that one-on-one thing like this, if we were just conversing, this is dream for me. But for me, I struggle when it comes into like kind of a big room of people. I feel like there's too many. Like I can't connect with many. But kind of what would you say you're wired?
You're saying about how you're wired just reminded me. Paula's quite the same, I think, in terms of like she just loves authentic relationships, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me that she literally phones one of her friends like every single day.
Yeah,
every day.
It's true.
Sometimes several times a day.
It's true. Yeah, and me and Paula are the same. Yeah. And you laugh at that, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just not wired like that.
No.
I think probably my wife Carla would probably want me to phone her maybe a bit more during the day. So I've got a lot to learn here. But how do I best connect? Well, I think I love serving, and I think my way of connecting with people is often to do stuff, to be involved with something that I don't know if it's a man thing or if it's just a kind of me thing, but like I like to be doing something when I'm sort of hanging out with people. So,
which they say men are wired like that, don't they? They say women naturally love to kind of talk and converse, men grow together as they do stuff together.
Yeah.
Which I think is just I think that's.
And I also think that I was probably, I would always shy away from crowds and new people in the past. But actually, I think one of the times I really enjoy connecting with people most is when I'm in a room full of new people.
Wow.
And I like going up to people and finding out stuff.
Which I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen this. Like, I'm totally opposite to this. So I've been around Pastor Stu when we've been at like conferences or something like that, and you're just going up to people, hello, da, 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 and I'm like, oh wow, he's just meeting everyone, and you've got that like networking way about you, haven't you? Like just being able to, which is a gift, I think, because
it's. I think it was a way of coping.
Okay.
So I was like, how shall I sort of kind of conduct myself in this environment? But now it's become a way of life.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
I enjoyed doing. John Keeping, Wayne's brother, always used to say to me, well, you writing a book or something? Because I asked so many questions.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good though.
But,
but it's brilliant to do that, because I think that's like, I'm like that when I'm one-to-one. I tend to ask, and I feel like sometimes I'm being a bit too intense, because they're probably thinking, he's up, like, you're just bombarding me. But
intense is another word.
Intense is kind of like is the way I am. But the point that I made of this is that everyone's different.
Yeah.
And I think the whole authentic relationship type thing, the way we do it, I think everyone is wired differently, aren't they? And the way we connect with people is differently. Like you just mentioned then, like I was going to say, how you best connect with people. I've seen it with you. You like that networking. You ask questions, don't you? You find out about people, and then you have you kind of doing with people. Yeah. Which is brilliant. I love it. It's great. But regardless of our personality types, because some people use their personality type as a way of just almost being rude sometimes, don't they? Like
or hiding behind.
Yeah, or hiding behind. Yeah. So I would say, perfect example when you mentioned Paula. Me and Paula are definitely, Paula's my wife, for those that don't know. We're wired very differently in the sense of our personality. Paula's very, she can handle those big kind of rooms of lots of people.
Extrovert, isn't she?
Yeah, she's an extrovert. And I am much more wired, the introvert type. But regardless of that personality type, I think the reality is we are born for relationship, right?
Yes.
As human beings, we're born to have relationship with people, and we only have to look at the Bible for this. Again, looking from the Christian context of this, in Genesis 2:18, the creation of humanity, this is what God said over Adam. He said, "Then the Lord God said, it's not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." And that's interesting, isn't it? That God looked down on the man and could see it's not good for him to be alone. So there's a clear example then that we shouldn't really be looking to be alone, because if God saw that it wasn't. And it's
good. Yeah.
What's interesting as we read this, I'm not going to read all the scriptures, but then all the animals started coming to Adam, and he started having to name all of the animals. And then they didn't fit the criteria, did they?
They didn't. No, they weren't what he needed, were they? No.
No. And it's funny, isn't it? Because he must have been thinking, this one doesn't suit my need, this one doesn't fit my need. But he was naming all of these animals, but nothing fitted that kind of need that he needed as a friend, as someone who was authentic in his world, that he could have relationship with. So he longed for human interaction.
I would just add, though, I do talk to my cat sometimes.
Okay, here we go. I thought we'd
go
down
to my
there.
cat, and I feel that cats give a much stronger response than dogs sometimes.
Okay, right. This is the first thing we're going to say. Cat lovers versus dog lovers. Come on, give us a shout out if you're a dog lover or a cat lover, because I'm sure this is
something. Cat lovers.
This is always something that pops up. I've got a cat.
Come on, you cat. We hear enough about dogs on Talking Church. Let's talk about cats today.
I've got a cat. Stu's got a cat. We're cat dominated up
Come
here today. But it's true. But like, it's funny.
But you can't get what you need.
No, you can't.
Even from a dog, you can't get that relationship.
You can't. You can't get what you. And I'm going to go on to a point in a minute. I think it's really key to kind of these animals in our life. But like Adam had lots of animals. He had every animal in his life, but he still was longing for something more. And God could see that. And so what God did was create woman, to be a helper, to be a friend, to be a co-worker with him. Yes. Not one above the other, but co-workers together. What are they saying?
Well, Pastor Andy mainly. There's a few people that are up for cats, but Pastor Andy said that's rubbish. Your mum says I love both, but I have a cat.
Yeah.
June, dog lover.
Yeah.
Andy Alms, dogs rule.
Dogs
Andy
rule.
Alms, cats are sneaky. That's why we love them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but the thing is,
sense of humour.
What I love about cats, they kind of just look after themselves. That's what I like about them. I'll just leave the thing, and it's great, brilliant, much easier for me. But Adam had every single one of these animals in front of him. As I said, they didn't quite fit that criteria for authentic relationship. And so then there was human, woman created, and there it was that he said these words: "This is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone." There was instant connection when he saw woman. Yeah, it was like amazing, isn't something different, isn't it? About
like totally compatible in every way.
And he knew it straight away when he saw it. And I think that is the humanity of who we are. When we see people, we can connect with people, right, in a way that you can't with an animal and other things. And this is what I think I was going to go on to. The point when I started thinking about this kind of stuff is that not all relationships are genuine, are they? In the world today, it's easy. And I know we've spoke a little bit about this. It's very easy to isolate ourselves from real friendships with other things. Yes. Like the TV, the phone, through social media. There's a generation, isn't there, that almost have lost authentic relationship and find themselves having a relationship with a phone. Yeah. With the TV. Yeah. Which would you say that's a problem?
Well. Yes, I think it is, because it's relationship via a device sometimes, isn't it? And I'll say to someone, "Or did you speak to that person?" Yeah, I spoke to them, but actually they didn't speak to them. They texted them or messaged them or something like that. And I think there is nothing like being with someone and talking to someone to build a relationship.
No, it's true.
And a lot of these modern luxuries can take away from that, can't they?
No, definitely, And I think sometimes the whole idea that we were created to have a relationship with people, we've almost put this phone, which are great, the phones are brilliant, nothing wrong with them, but we end up having a relationship through the phone with people, which means then we see people, like you see a generation today, don't know how to communicate,
interact properly,
and so when they're around people, they become anxious, they become worried, and all of these kind of things, which is because that human interaction has been lost, which we were destined to have. It's true. And again, looking back at like kind of animals and things like this, you can have them for company, but you can't have them for authentic relationship. Like the cat isn't going to talk to you. My cat, if it started talking to me, that thing's going. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting rid of that thing. But they can't relate back to you like a human being can, True. And so we are born, I think, for those kind of authentic relationships with other human beings. There's nothing wrong with the other stuff. There's nothing wrong with having company and having a TV to watch things and, all that entertainment type stuff. But there's nothing better than having an authentic relationship with another human being.
Yeah. You put that perfectly.
Oh, there we go. Cat jokes coming through. Here we go. No, that's brilliant. Well done, Stu. So I want to look at cultivating friendships, or how to cultivate friendships. Asking a question to yourself now. Would you say that you're good at cultivating friendships?
That's a really good question.
If you was to...
I would say that I'm not as good as some people, because my love language, going back to love languages, my how I receive love and probably give love best is words of affirmation. And serving and doing things for other people. And so I think you need more than that to cultivate a good friendship. And so I have to work hard to cultivate a good friendship, because actually there's nothing like spending time with people to cultivate really good friendships. So if spending time with, like, time is one of your love languages, I think it probably comes more naturally to you.
Yeah, definitely.
People like me have to work harder at it. But am I good at cultivating friendships? Well, I think so. I think sometimes, though, because I'm a doer, doing can come before friendship sometimes, or just make me busy and cause me to then, which I feel fine with, but actually it doesn't then cultivate friendships.
No, it's true.
So you have to work extra hard at the friendship side of things.
That's a really good point. You can be doing stuff with people and thinking that you're together, but the whole time you've never actually really grown close to each other or having a friendship. So
and then there's no depth there, is there?
No. And so there's this whole, which is really interesting. But at the same time, I find when I'm doing something with someone, and like, for instance, set up on a Sunday morning, I can really build friendship, but we're not stood there talking, are we? Everyone's getting on, but I feel left. I leave that place feeling like, I got to know that person. But you can kind of have that moment, can't you, in doing and actually
those little conversations sometimes, and
and I think those are like kind of genuine things. And I think sometimes as men, when we do stuff together, you kind of go through something together, don't you? And you feel like, yeah, we did that. And it's that bond there of doing it. And I know every Sunday morning is like a, come on, we did this, you know what I mean? And it's that feeling, isn't it?
We had someone round last night, and Carla was putting Lola to bed, and I was just chatting to him, and I just started sort of saying something a bit deep, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know. And he was like, wow, you're getting really deep tonight. And I was like, yeah, actually, because I really felt that if I don't say some of these things, then we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
It's easy to be with people, like even for an evening, have someone round, and you're with them for the evening, but you don't sort of go beyond the surface.
Yeah, you don't go down.
And so in my mind, I was being deliberate about kind of going beyond the surface to make the most of that time as well. And to say something that actually hopefully would encourage that person.
That's really good, isn't it? And sometimes it's funny, isn't it? Because to get over that, it's a little bit like, for me, digging down deep and saying like words, and
it's uncomfortable.
It's a bit uncomfortable, and it's a bit like, it's just not kind of easy to do sometimes. I had it actually saying that with this, you know, with the whole thing where we go away with the MIT, which you know it's all about cultivating kind of relationships with people, isn't it?
Big time.
And it's intense because like time. If you're like me, it's like, oh, you're thrown in a room, make friends, go and find that person. And you're like, it's kind of like you kind of, but at the end of it, you just feel a sense of like growing close to each other. And like, I remember leaving the one we just went, and I just felt like really like saying stuff, and I'm like, wow, again, going deep. I was really appreciative of people. I was like going up to Sparky, for instance, who's like my coach, and be like, I just said, I really appreciate it. And I started speaking. I'm like,
nice.
Oh, blimey, like this is what's
really
coming
good.
out of me. Yeah. Like, but it's because there's that kind of depth that's grown. And it's
by design. They've deliberately made it that environment where community can be built, where authentic relationships can develop.
Isn't it? Yeah. And I love that. Remember, authentic is all about that kind of genuineness. It's not a false kind of like just saying it. It means something when we're saying it, and it's a real deep connection. And I just want to pick up on a little thing, especially when it comes around to this cultivating friendships, something that I heard recently about isolation.
Right.
Because we live in a world, I think, today where people isolate themselves, don't they? They find it easy to isolate themselves. And isolation, I'm just going to read a few of these statements. Isolation and loneliness do not need to be inevitable. I like this, it's inevitable. I've lost all my friends. It's inevitable. That doesn't need to be the statement of our kind of thinking, does it? We make that choice sometimes, and I say that from past experience because I find it very easy to draw back, but that's my own choice because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
But that's me making that choice, but it doesn't have to be the way it is.
No, and I think it is harder for people that are in that, live on their own, are in a situation where they maybe don't have access to groups of people that others would have access to.
It's very true.
But even so, I think it's really important that we don't just give up and say, well, I'm just going to be isolated, I'm just going to live lonely, because actually there are always things that we can do to develop relationships.
And I suppose this is the importance, talking church, right? Church is the body that comes together, fellowship, community. I get it outside the church, life can be lonely. If you don't, it's hard to make, all that. But when you're in a part of the body, wherever it may be, whatever church, if you're listening from another church,
it's really good.
We're part of a body that says togetherness,
Yeah, and if we do that well, then every single member of the body understands that they're important, that they have a part to play, that they have a place in the body.
Amen.
And I think we have to really, again, work hard to make sure that culture is cultivated, where everyone feels like a really important part of the body of Christ.
That's really good. Yeah, I love that. The culture's important, isn't it? And then things like the connect groups and things outside of that, there's a place, isn't there, through the week where you're not just left, see you next Sunday, but there's a constant feel of connection and community built into it, and I think that's really good. I think that's really important. And again, the other statement that I had was, when we accept not being isolated, it is our responsibility. It puts us in control of the situation, which is really good because it actually says it doesn't have to be like this. I'm going to position myself, and I'll just briefly share a little bit of a testimony of when I first came to church. Most of you know when I came to church. I came, in my tracksuit, really like a little bit unsure of what church was about. But I walked into a community, and I think that was the biggest shock. I wasn't expecting to walk into a community of people like that. I was expecting the whole religious kind of feeling of just like kind of maybe a bit like being,
very different, wasn't it?
But it was just, just so full. And I remember it was Gary and Sally Branch were some of the couples that I first met, and they were hello and welcome. And I was like, wow, and there was just lots.
They were very good at that.
Yeah, but there was just lots of people, and I was like, wow, it felt genuine. Yeah. It felt like wow, and it was something that I'd not experienced before.
You were about 20?
I was 20 at the time. Yeah. Wow. 35 now, so it was a while ago. Time's gone very quick, but and I walked in and I found like wow, that was something that drew me to it. It was this genuineness of being in the room. But I then went away, but had to make a decision that I'm going to put myself back. And for a period of time, it was just me pushing myself. I had my Connect group kind of thing that I was pushing myself to go to. But sometimes we do have to put the responsibility on us to kind of put ourselves out there a little bit, don't we? And push past the uncomfortable kind ofness to put ourselves in a place where we're able to make friends and be there,
Even the most friendly people in our lives can't force us to create relationship and have authentic relationship, and so there's something on us. Even when we've got people around us that we can connect with, we still have to choose to go deep, don't we? And not just keep it surface,
like kind of shallow level. We have to kind of choose to push in a little bit, which is really important. And I think like kind of the most genuine friendships are those, when you decide to take a step of faith and push in a little bit, and sometimes you get hurt. That's the reality,
it's a risk,
isn't it?
It is a risk. Opening up and becoming vulnerable and going past the uncomfortable and awkward, stage of doing that to going deep. It's a risk, but it does also pay off.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing better than having that friend that like you can count on and who's there in a time of need. You say about Paula, I know she's got multiple people like this that she draws, but I'm sure you've got, we've got each other as well. Like that. I know that I could call on you and say, Stu,
you can.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, see. But and there's something so nice about knowing that you've got friends.
Yes.
Because I've lived that life where you didn't have friends. It's horrible. You're on your own. You think, does anyone really care? But then there isn't till you start stepping out and you have those friends. You're just so thankful.
And people that you don't have to sort of be anything for. Yeah. People that you can just be yourself with.
Exactly that. And which is really crucial because C.S. Lewis, I'm going to quote this quote from C.S. Lewis, which is so brilliantly written on the words of friendship in the Four Loves, it's called. And it's amazing. I'm just going to read it and then just kind of like talk at the final point about the friendship. It says this: love essentially ignores not only our physical bodies, but the whole embodiment which consists of our family, job, past and connections. At home, besides being Peter or Jane, we also bear a general character, husband or wife, brother or sister, chief, colleague or subordinate. So basically what you're saying is that we all have these kind of things that are on us, right? You have to be this at home. You're
roles
a husband.
And
responsibilities, certain things you have to live up to. But then he goes on, not among our friends. It is an affair of disentangled or stripped minds. I love that thought of like just disentangledness of like all of the responsibilities and kind of this is who I am and I've got to be this now, and it's just all of that stripped back. And he goes on to speak about kind of eros, about human love and stuff, being of like kind of nakedness. But he says this about friendships: it's naked personalities. Isn't that amazing? Like it's there should be no facade of trying to put on something.
No covering.
No covering. Covering. But of the mind, of just this is who I am. That's a genuine, authentic relationship with someone. This is who I am.
Good. Yeah.
This is who you are. You come from this way of life. I come from this way of life. Our upbringings are very different. Like the way in which we were brought up and stuff. But none of that matters when it comes to friendship, because it's our personality stripped back, and it's just genuine friendship where we meet at the middle.
And just on that, it really helps to have people in your life that aren't you, that aren't like you. Their personalities are different. To have diverse friendships is such a positive thing, and we're so blessed, aren't we? In our lives, I know your life, I know my life. We've got so many different people who are so different to us. Yes, brings so much richness to our lives.
It's so true. I'd always say that if you're looking to grow your life, develop, make a richness of your life. You can get riches through working and stuff, but there's nothing more rich than having richness of friends. You know, I think of how blessed we are with our church, you know, diverse.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But what you experience with that diversity is a richness of, like, you wouldn't get that anywhere else. Like, you're growing with people. I mean, think of my own family, for instance, you know, with my wife being from London, being that she's Ghanaian. You know, all of this, it's such a richness. You know, your wife being from Birmingham.
Wow.
Whew,
I mean,
you know, like,
you can't get much more diverse than a lad from the New Forest and a girl from Birmingham.
That's it, yeah. Two worlds collided. But it's amazing, isn't it? Like, and I think there is a richness. And I've seen people when they're so alike, it's almost like just everything agrees. Yeah, you're annoyed. Yeah, I'll be annoyed with you. But there's no kind of pushing against anything and making things richer and growing and developing. It's always kind of just the same, you know. And I think we should always be looking to have a friendship that looks outside of who we are.
Yeah, and people that challenge us in our thinking and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. I actually saw this thing that I've just on the way here, I was thinking, I wonder what the oldest friendship that has been, like, you know, in recent times. Like, and I thought, I actually Googled it, and up popped these two old ladies, like, absolutely amazing ladies. The funniest, like, conversation they had. They are all 100 years old each, and they met each other when they were 4, and they've been best friends for 96 years.
Wow, you can't get much longer than that, can you?
What I loved about it, and you can kind of YouTube this if you want. What I loved about this was that they just kind of got each other. And, like, when they were being asked questions, often one wouldn't understand it. And so the one had to then repeat it back because they just got each other. And so it was constant, like, banter between. But I was like, wow, isn't that amazing that friendship lasted for so long? And I think that's so beautiful. And you could see it was so authentic and so amazing. And there's many of these relationships and friendships. And to me, I was just inspired. I was like, wow, friendship doesn't have to be this thing of, like, oh, no, I'm not. It pushes through, doesn't it? It can last a lifetime. What was kind of sad about this is that these old ladies were born 2 months in each other, and they died 2 months apart from each other as well. Yeah. So, like, a few years back. But amazing. I just think, wow, it inspired me.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is special because you think actually that doesn't just happen. You don't just become friends and then for 96 years it just pushes by. There's something you have to push into it.
And you can't think that they didn't have challenges, because challenges always come.
Yep.
You know, people will always let you down.
Absolutely.
There's only one friend that never lets you down. I know we'll speak about him in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people will always let you down. And you know, but friendship becomes richer and deeper when you push through those things and still are committed to that
to one another. And I think it does grow you. And I'm sure these older ladies would have had those troubles. You know, they went through the war. I mean, I think they grew up in their teens in the 30s. So they would have gone through there would have been hardness, the hardships and all kinds of stuff that they would have experienced. And I'm sure they had tales to tell of the times they might have fallen out, but got over it and stuff. But I just wanted to quickly look at a couple of characters in the Bible, because I think that's kind of important to look at some of the friendships that we see that are actually hidden within the scriptures, within the text. And the first one that when I started thinking about was Naomi and Ruth. All right. You know, in the whole kind of picture in the book of Ruth, when, I'll read it in Ruth 1:16. It says this, but Ruth replied, don't urge me, when she's speaking to her mother-in-law, don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. So here you have a lady saying, it's time to leave. You know, your sons, your husbands have died. She's speaking to her daughter-in-law Ruth to say time to go back. You can go back and find yourself another husband. The other one said, oh, okay, and left. But her heart was, no, where you don't urge me to. Yeah, absolute commitment. And that's what I get from it, is this commitment upon her life towards her mother-in-law was like, I'm not going back. You know, we have a friendship, even though your husband has died, my husband has died, this is looking like carnage. We are in this together. And I love the word, when you look at the word where it says, don't urge me to leave, it actually is the word reject. And she's basically saying, don't make me reject you. I am not wanting to reject you. And I just think that's important, that good friends don't reject each other.
Isn't it? Yeah. Wow.
we shouldn't reject each other. No. We can have differences sometimes, but rejection is something different. Just to reject someone and push them away.
Yeah, and when you're hurting or when you go through different seasons in life, it's natural to try and push people away sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy to do.
What amazing commitment from Ruth saying, "No, I'm with you. Don't push me away. I'm not going to let you push me away. I'm sticking with you."
And it's amazing, isn't it? And what I love is her statement where she says, "Your people will be my people." What she's saying is, everything I've known, my feelings, my beliefs, my things, whatever it can be. Look, I'm taking it off for a moment to push on with you and to put your things first before my needs. Because that's what friends do, right? They think about other people's needs before themselves. That's what a good friendship's about. Yeah. It's built on looking out for each other.
And it's not a love that's looking to take. It's a love that really only looks to give.
And that's an authentic relationship. You see, if you was looking at a kind of a non-authentic or a false friendship, it's all about what they can get from it. And I always think about, I know this isn't biblical, but like Freddie Mercury, Elvis Presley, you listen to some of their kind of statements they make, they were lost with who their friends were. Because it was all about, they became rich, they became, and they were used, weren't they? They were used. They never had any genuine friends. And so that can happen in life, But what I love about when you read this is that kind of commitment to say, no, I'm with you in the hard. It's easy to be with people in the good times when it's a party and it's fun, but when it's really hard and there's loss and there's betrayal and there's hurt, I'm still with you. Isn't that amazing?
The Proverbs, a friend sticks closer than a brother.
Amen. There we go.
So friendship is just such an incredible thing when we get it right, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think we all need that commitment, knowing that someone's got your back, that they're with you, And I love that. So that was the first one that I thought of when I thought of that was Naomi and Ruth there in that picture. The second one, which is a beautiful relationship between David and Jonathan. Yeah. I mean, when you read some of the words, they're very loving words to one another. Like you can read it in 1 Samuel 20. I'm going to read just a short snippet from verse 32 to 33. It says, "Why should he?" And this is basically what happens. To give the backstory, is David is aware that Saul is trying to kill him. It's very obvious, do you know what I mean? Jonathan's dad, yeah, which makes it all the more awkward. Jonathan is like, surely not, because I think Saul's been deceived, hiding it from Jonathan. He's like, surely my dad wouldn't do such a thing and all this kind of stuff. And then they set up a plan and they make a commitment to one another. And they're just basically like the best of friends. You can see it, there's such a genuine authenticness. And what I get from this, and I read what happens. So Saul and Jonathan have this moment where basically he erupts and he says, "Why have you let David go?" Wants to kill him basically. And then Jonathan sees his dad's heart for the first time, and he says this: "Why should he be put to death?" This is him speaking to his dad about David. Why should he be put to death? Wow. What has he done? I mean, that takes some guts to stand up, not only to your dad, but it's the king. You don't do it to your dad, let alone to your dad that's the king. Do you know what I mean? And Jonathan asked his father, but Saul, listen to what he does, hurled his spear at him to kill his own son. He's raging, obviously. Then Jonathan knew that his father intended to kill David. But what I love about this is that authentic friendship stand up for each other. They stand up, regardless of knowing, like, oh, I don't know, what's the outcome here? I've got your back. I'm standing up for you. No, I'm not having this. And I think that's true, right? You'd want...
Oh, so true.
Your friends to stick up for you, to stand up for you in the hard times. Look at it from the other perspective that a friend isn't with you when they run off. Jonathan, no, I ain't. No, all right, Dad, don't worry about it. Just have him. That's terrifying. But he stands up in that, and I just think that's amazing. I think in my own world, that's the friends I want around me. In the hard times, they've got my back, just like kind of the whole Naomi Ruth thing, And
I would say that's one of the things that I've always known in serving with Pastor Andy, is that he's always stood up for me, not just brilliant. As a leader and as a co-pastor, but as a friend, he's always stood up for me. When things come, accusations come, he's always got your back. Got my back. And I've tried to do the same for him.
And that's brilliant.
And I think that's why friendships can last, is because actually there is trust. I mean, that comes from trust, doesn't it? Trust,
yeah, absolutely. So. It's so true. It is the whole trust issue, And what I loved about this outcome is we know obviously the situation with Jonathan didn't end well later on and stuff like that, but David's commitment to Jonathan was to Jonathan and his children, that he would commit to look after them, and he later on comes back to that commitment and yes, and looks after him, gives him a place at the king's table because of the honor that he had and the love and commitment that he had for that father, for Jonathan. And I think sometimes that's friendships are that, you know, they're truthful. When they say they're going to do something, they do it. And David was that honest kind of guy, you know, that did that.
And it just shows us as well that friendship, true friendship, extends to the person's family as well. Again,
that's very good.
You can't be honourable to Pastor Andy and then diss Pastor Gina.
Yeah, no, it's
or
true.
Gossip about her or something like that.
The family, you know.
If you truly honour and have friendship with one, then it does
comes
extend
as the whole.
to others.
That's a great point. That's really good. Love that. So authentic friends, I believe, stand up for each other. Elijah and Elisha's the other one that I saw, because there's a moment there where Elisha and Elijah have this kind of thing in 2 Kings 2:4. And Elijah's about to go, you know, that moment, that magical, mad moment where he's taken up in chariots of fire and stuff. But and he says this, then Elijah said to him, that's to Elisha, "Stay here, Elisha, the Lord has sent me to Jericho." And this is his reply. "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So they went to Jericho. And I love that again. It just shows that commitment, doesn't it, to one another. And what's interesting about this is it wasn't just a normal following. When you look at it, he followed him through the most bizarre situation. The waters were parted. And they went in through the waters. I mean, it is easy to follow someone down North End, you know, to the shop and back. "Oh, don't worry, I've got you back." But when the Solent parts and we're walking to the Isle of Wight, that's slightly different. You're thinking, not so sure about this. But it just reminds me that, authentic friends will follow and help even when it makes no sense. We'll be there, you know, even if I don't understand what you're going through. I'm gonna walk with you through it, and I'm gonna stand by you, and I'm not gonna leave you to do it by yourself. You know, that's great, isn't it?
It's a really good example. And I like it.
And I really love this with Elijah and Elisha. And obviously we know the outcome. Elijah went up, and Elisha received this double portion of blessing. And whether he knew that was coming or not, I don't know. I'm sure he was just following his friend because he loved him. You know. And I just think that's so important, is that we don't just push away our friends when things get a bit, I'm not sure how this is going. We walk with them. That's right,
absolutely. And I think there's often times, isn't there, when we don't understand a situation, but you have to remember there's always other perspectives, and you have to remember that this is, you know, this person is on their journey. It makes sense to them, or it doesn't make sense to them, but this is where they're headed, and I think we have a responsibility to warn and to ask questions and to probably challenge sometimes, but at the same time, there is sometimes just in friendship, you don't understand why they're making those choices. You don't understand what is in their mind sometimes, but you stick with them because that's what friendship does.
Definitely.
And if it all turns out really messy, if they end up, you know, making some bad choices and it messes up, you're still there for them.
Still there with them to try and help them through it.
So
that's really good. And I love that. So the whole Elijah and Elisha thing is there. And then obviously probably the biggest one that we see when it comes to relationship is the very one we serve, Jesus himself and his disciples, which is a longevity to it, isn't there, with the way in which he calls them and they follow him. But there's also different depths, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, with the disciples, different levels of friendships. What's your thoughts on that kind of thing? Like when you know, Jesus, he takes some of them, doesn't he, in a bit closer, and some a little bit further away.
And there seem to be several different groups of friendship, and from those who were simply committed to following him and being his disciples. So they're the ones that were gathered in the upper room, aren't they? The 120 men plus the women and whoever else was there.
Yeah, it's true.
And then of course you had the 70 that were sent out by Jesus. So they were walking in the shoes of apostles when they were sent out to take the message of the gospel. And then the 12 who were the first apostles. Then the 3.
It's true. Up the mountain.
And of course even the one, maybe John. Who sat closely to Jesus.
It's true. It's like
the closest.
All different kind of levels of this kind of friendship, and I think that's the picture of our life, right? If you could look at your own life, I'm sure there's people that you allow into certain levels because that's right, and there's some like our wives that come right in close as friends, the very best of friends.
The ones that have their head on our chest. As John did.
Yeah, it's true. And I've just very leaned in, and they know probably bits about us that no one else would ever really know, because that's the closeness of a marriage, you know. Yeah. But then there's the free, and then there's and as you get, you know, and then there's the bigger picture of kind of acquaintances. That,
and you can't be close friends with everyone.
No.
And you shouldn't try. At the same time, you should be friendly with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I think about what we want to do in terms of the culture of the church. We want Family Church to be a really friendly place, a really welcoming place. And so every one of us has a responsibility to ensure that when people come into the house of God and they connect with the church, they receive friendship. Yeah. But we won't be building close friendships with every single person in our lives. But that's why we have to be good connectors. Yeah. You know, I think this person would really connect well with this person, or with this small group, or with this ministry. So we connect them with those things.
That's brilliant. That's a great picture, isn't it? Of like kind of little bridges connecting people to people, and making sure that people, because you're right, you can't be a friend to everyone, as in close friend, but you can obviously be friendly to everyone. Yeah. But we all have to have our kind of like ability to kind of have that group, and then that person's connected to the, you know what I mean? It should all be connected. You know, I think Jesus portrayed that picture. Yeah.
I think we're running out of time.
We are. So we are running out of time. We are literally at the end of this. So all I wanted to
I think you really should just mention these.
Yeah, the 3 C's. Yeah. I'm going to finish on the 3 C's, if that's all right, because I think that's because it relates back to the Jesus thing. Yeah. So the 3 C's is what kind of I said is the whole. I'll add a little research of this is. What relationships should be built on is connection, communication, and consistency. If we're going to have a genuine, you know, heartfelt relationship with someone, it starts with connection. We need to connect to one another. Yeah. And, you know, looking back to Jesus himself, he connects with us, right? As the Saviour of the world. John 15, abide in me and I abide in you. That's the exact principle that he does with us. He connects with us. Yeah. The next thing is the communication side of it. If we, you know, and we can add these principles to our everyday life. If we're going to have this genuine, authentic relationship, we need to make sure we're communicating, talking, but also the most difficult part of it, being honest about it, because it's hard, being honest, right? Yeah. You know, being able to take honest kind of conversation, but also being able to give honest conversation, having those courageous conversations is what they would say, like being able to tell someone the truth.
Yeah, it feels like some people are really good at doing that, but not very good at hearing it.
Yeah. So like a bit insecure, maybe.
And others are not very good at being honest about their conversation, and probably need to really step up and be a bit clearer and more honest. Yeah. But you have to, if you're going to give it, you have to take it,
which is the kind of thing you said, wasn't it? Which I think is a really good point with anything in life. If you're going to give something to something, you've got to know how to take it back as well at the same time. Yeah. But with that whole kind of communication thing, speaking truth, when I look at the Bible is the truth. Right. And God speaks truth to us.
Relationship with God.
So bringing it back to that, it's exactly what Jesus does with us. He speaks truth. He doesn't tell you, he was honest. The Bible says that the word of God is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, which means sometimes it's going to hurt, but it's for our good. Yeah. Because I'd rather be told the truth that's going to grow me than someone saying, you know, being false with me. Because that's not being a good friend when someone's just trying to make you hear what you want to hear. Yeah. I think sometimes we have to have,
in your ears.
So you feel good. You need honest communication. Yeah. So connection, communication, and then this is the key: consistency. You know, those the older ladies were the ones. That was a consistency.
There's some consistency there, wasn't there?
And I think any good, authentic relationship has a consistency to it. And I look at the Bible again, and I look at the way Jesus and the Father walks with us. The scripture that keeps coming up, Deuteronomy 31:6 and verse 8, Joshua 1:5, Hebrews 13:5, is the one thing that God says he will never leave nor forsake us. He's consistently in relationship with us, and that's authentic. So God is brilliant at connecting with us, communicating with us, and being consistent with us. Yeah. And I think that's how we need to portray. If we're going to have good friends in our life, we need to carry these 3 C's. You know, we need to be looking to connect with people, to be really communicating well with people, and look for the long term. You know, consistent in the hard and the good. I'm going to be consistent.
And when people let us down as well, like we still have to take responsibility. Yeah, we might be waiting for someone to come and apologise, but why don't we make the first move?
Yeah, it's true.
I think of Jesus when he was raised from the dead. First thing he did was restore Jesus, restore Peter.
It's true.
And just Peter had messed up, but Jesus just extended his arms to him and said, "Come on, our friendship is worth more than this."
Yeah,
in that sense.
He already knew he was going to. Do it to him. Jesus is already knowing our failures and looks beyond them. We've got to be ready to always be forgiving people and look beyond the kind of faults of humanity, isn't it? But I think if I'm going to leave us all with those 3 C's that we can take into our everyday situation and think that's how we're going to be friends. And I'll just leave you with this one thought.
What are those 3 C's again?
They are connection, communication, and consistency.
Great,
okay, so those are the things. Yeah. And I think one of the most valuable lessons through all of this is that sometimes if we want to have a friend, we need to just reach out and be a friend, isn't it? That's the thing, and we can do that with those 3 C's. True. Reach out and connect with people. Don't wait for people to connect. Just reach out, and then start building those friendships, like how you do it so well with just going out and talking to people, which is. It's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah,
and if you're like me, then your challenge will probably be then going deeper and really creating those depths of friendships. But some people just need to sort of have the courage to step out and start those friendships.
That's it, and I think it's important for our journey to have authentic relationships. Good job. So brilliant, so fantastic. Well, that's it for this week. We are back on the
Tuesday the 18th.
Tuesday the 18th of April. So there's a 2-week break. 2-week break. Brilliant. Have a great Easter, and we will see you again soon.
Bye.